Hey everyone, I'm the guy with no name. Before I get into my thoughts on the film as a whole, I do want to talk about something that you may or may not have heard about. There's some people that are calling Sound of Freedom controversial, and they're saying it's overly religious or overly political, and I just want to let you know that there's no gray area, there's no difference of opinion. What is being said by those people is simply false. This film is based on a true story, on true events. The main character is a real person named Tim Ballard, who does happen to be a Christian and does reference his faith from time to time, but it's always in a way that makes sense for his character, and it's in a timely manner. It's not done in a preachy way, it's not just out of the blue. It makes perfect sense when he mentions it, and like I said, it is few and far between. As far as the message goes, there's nothing, absolutely nothing political about it, and it really annoys me to even hear people saying that. The moral of the whole story is that sex trafficking is bad. Sex slavery is bad, especially when it comes to children. What's controversial about saying child trafficking is bad, and we all need to do a better job of cracking down on it, especially governments? You know, they spend all this energy trying to fight the drug industry, and I understand why they do that, but it's completely out of whack when you look at how just rampant child sex trafficking has become. So it's really just saying, hey, we need to allocate more resources to actually fighting that and saving these children. That's not controversial, not overly religious, not overly political. So please, I know this review's coming out late, but if you have not seen the movie and that's maybe something that's been holding you up, let me just tell you right now, it's not true. Don't let it hold you up. See the movie. With that out of the way, what is Sound of Freedom about exactly? So it starts off in a pretty terrifying scene in Honduras, where a father finds out that his son and daughter have been kidnapped and forced into the sex trafficking industry, and he's helpless to stop it. Meanwhile, in California, Tim Ballard, who is a special agent in the Homeland Security Investigation, or HSI, he arrests a criminal involved in the possession and distribution of child pornography. And while he's been pretty successful at finding these criminals, arresting them, and convicting them, he finds himself really dissatisfied in the fact that he has not been able to rescue hardly any of the victims. Because of that, he goes to Colombia to try to rescue as many children out of the sex trafficking industry as possible, and meets lots of different adversity along the way, including losing funding from the US government. Sound of Freedom was directed by Alejandro Monteverde. It stars Jim Caviezel as Tim Ballard, Bill Camp as Vampiro, a former cartel member who now works to rescue children from sex trafficking, Mira Sorvino as Ballard's wife, Catherine Ballard, Crystal Aparicio, who's phenomenal by the way, as Rocio, and Lucas Avila as Miguel. Rocio and Miguel are the two children at the beginning who were kidnapped. Overall, I thought the acting was quite good. To be honest, I only have really one complaint, and I hate to single this person out, but I thought the father should have been a bit more just emotional throughout the whole thing. I know I was on the verge of tears, my wife was on the verge of tears, it sounded like most of the audience was also on the verge of tears, but I don't remember the father crying one time, and as a father myself, I found that really unrealistic. As far as the villains go, I mean, they're playing people who are the worst of the worst, and I thought they did a good job portraying people like that without going overboard. Jim Caviezel is really the standout of this film. He does a great job of portraying Ballard as this, good person who's flawed but has a strong sense of justice, a strong sense of right and wrong, and is really protective of these kids who are being exploited. Really, all you have to do is look in his eyes in the film, and it tells the whole story. He has to put on this protective outer shell in order to do his job well, in order to go undercover sometimes. But you can see in his eyes the vulnerability and the pain of what he has to be exposed to. And you can see the intense longing of wanting to take these situations, these evil situations, and somehow make them right. Sound of Freedom is definitely very dark given the subject matter, but I will say there are some moments of levity that serve as breaths of fresh air that don't feel out of place. It also has a pretty small budget, but it doesn't look cheap, and it's well directed and well shot. The score also adds to the overall feel of the film, sounding both bleak and hopeful at the same time. Overall, I found Sound of Freedom to be great. It's definitely very depressing and very heavy at times, but it's an important film. I really would recommend that all adults see this, whether you're a parent or an aspiring parent, or if you take care of kids, whether that makes you an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a grandparent, a babysitter. I think it's going to be eye-opening to a lot of people. Even if you know a little bit more than the average person about just how big sex trafficking has become, I still think it's going to be eye-opening to a certain degree, and it's definitely, you know, great to see people like Tim Ballard fighting this evil. As far as whether you should take, you know, any children to see this with you, I would definitely be very careful about that. I don't see a lot of children being able to handle something like this. So, how can you help stop child sex trafficking? Let me start out by saying this: I am not sponsored by, nor am I affiliated with Tim Ballard in any way whatsoever. I'm just someone who saw Sound of Freedom and was deeply moved by it and wanted to help out however I could. But Tim Ballard does have an organization called Operation Underground Railroad that combats child sex trafficking globally with a focus on trying to rescue the victims. So I would highly suggest giving a donation to just make sure that they have all the tools that they need to combat this thing. And I will definitely have a link in the description to their website. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for your support. If you enjoyed it, please let me know by liking, commenting, and subscribing. It really helps me kind of figure out what's working and not working. I'm about 2 weeks or so into my YouTube channel, so the likes, comments, and subscriptions really help me kind of figure out what's working and what to keep doing going forward. But definitely be looking for more videos. In the meantime, I do have other videos on my channel. I have a review on the film Oppenheimer, which I'm very proud of. I have 2 videos on the Marvel Disney Plus series Secret Invasion, and then I have an out of the theater reaction for the new movie The Last Voyage of the Demeter. So watch those in the meantime, but I think the next video I'm going to be doing is on the DC film Blue Beetle. I'm kind of sensing there's not a lot of excitement. I think there's a lot of people waiting and seeing on, you know, if it's going to be good or not. So be looking out for my video. Maybe you can use it. I'm going to provide you with as many pros and cons as I can think of, and maybe you can figure out whether you think it's worth the time or not. But I don't want to take up any more of your time. Thanks again, and until next time, this is Guy with No Name signing off.